With culture comes customs, whether it's food, clothing, beauty practices, traditions, or overall livelihood. Every culture has several aspects that over time change and evolve. In this research paper, we are going to take a close look into the beauty of Black women and how certain hair trends have come and gone throughout these past few decades. Of the many popular hairstyles that women of color wear and have worn, recognizing how the world and its influences can affect their choice of hairstyle is quite compelling. Just about all women would agree that hair care is a significant facet in regards to beauty. Many women, regardless of skin color, take pride in their hair. It not only gives them confidence, but also contributes to upholding an appearance that conforms to what is considered acceptable, attractive, or as many anthropologists would say, the norm. The making, marketing, and selling of hair care has been around for decades, making it one of the largest billion-dollar businesses to ever exist. According to Statista.com, for the year of 2018 alone, the global hair care market is expected to be worth nearly $88 billion. For women especially, hair care is very important. We want long hair, healthy hair, shiny hair, and last but certainly not least, manageable hair. With that being said, when it comes to the origin of hair care, specifically amongst women of color, because of their natural hair being so coarse and tightly coiled, many women will seek after products and techniques that help them straighten their hair texture. Two of the most common methods of hair straightening would have been the relaxer or the hot comb. Patented by one of America's first Black female millionaires, Annie Turnbull Malone, the hot comb was heated, and by placing pieces of hair in between its fine teeth, the heat emitted from the comb would manipulate the hair, leaving it straighter with a much smoother texture. In the late 1800s, as a teenager, Annie took an interest in hair care. At this period of time, Black women straightening their hair had become a popular style. Before, the braided cornrow style was more prominent, but because of its association with slavery, the style began to be looked down upon. Moving forward, wearing straightened hair to many Black women symbolized a beacon of light that embraced freedom in the uphill battle towards equality. It was an attempt to assimilate into white society. Black women in the 19th century found that the more European traits they had, the high class they could be. This era could have possibly been the beginning of the impact on Black women and the many biased opinions regarding the appearance of their natural hair. As the silky straight hair trend that Black women emblematically adopted had continued on into the 1900s, there was a sudden change that had happened once the 1960s and 1970s approached. This era in America was known for the Civil Rights Movement. While African Americans unapologetically began to fight for their freedom and rights, expressing Black pride and embracing the beauty of natural Black hair became notoriously respected amongst the Black community. It was a time of revolution and rebellion. Conforming to Eurocentric, racist, and discriminatory standards were no longer being accepted by African Americans. So as a result, a lot of Black women began to ditch their hot combs and hair relaxer for Afro picks and hairspray.
Brother here, myself, all of us were born with our hair like this, and we just wear it like this because it's natural. Because the reason for it, you might say, is like a new awareness among Black people that their own natural appearance, physical appearance, is beautiful and it's pleasing to them. For so many years, we were told that only white people were beautiful. Only straight hair, light eyes, light skin was beautiful, and so Black women would try everything they could to straighten their hair.
If we look at the images of a few influential Black women of the 1960s and 70s, such as Angela Davis, Pam Grier, and Diana Ross, we'll notice that they all were known to wear their hair in afros. Whether a woman chose to wear it in its natural round form, pulled up into a puffball, or tied back with a small scarf along the hairline, maintaining the style didn't require much effort. Although this was a time of empowerment, it wasn't long before the hot combs and hair relaxers would make a comeback. I sat with Lisa, a relative of mine, for a short interview regarding her personal history of hair care. Although she now chooses to wear her hair naturally. She did admit that at one point in time she had been nearly addicted to relaxing her hair. Going to see her stylist every 6 weeks for a touch-up, she expressed how costly and time-consuming the process was, but said that she did it because it was a popular trend. Lisa had begun straightening her natural hair at a young age. It was a part of the culture as a young black girl to get your hair straightened with a hot comb until you could do the chemicals, she said. This left me to not only wonder why it was such a prominent trend, but to also acknowledge how this trend could have possibly instilled the notion in so many young black girls that their natural hair was not acceptable to wear. Right beside the hot comb treatment was the relaxer. A creamy white concoction, once referred to as hair refiner cream, was created by Garrett A. Morgan in 1877. Designed to help African Americans obtain more manageable hair by smoothing out the hair follicle in a way to force the naturally curly texture hair straight, the relaxer hit the shelves as a weapon to defeat war declared on bad hair. The G.A. Morgan Hair Refining Company, founded in 1913, would have marked the beginning of the relaxer epidemic in America. Improve your appearance, read an advertisement clipping for the company. War has been declared on short, meat, stubborn, and bad-appearing hair, the ad continued, implying that the kinky hair that African Americans were naturally born with was unattractive. Many black women would soon fall victim to its harsh after effects. Before Morgan established his hair refining cream in the 1890s, Annie Turnbull Malone had begun to learn the ins and outs of hair care. She will recall witnessing lye, a strong alkaline solution being used for hair straightening. It wasn't long before the method had come to a halt due to it resulting in scalp damage and broken hair follicles. Fast forwarding to the mid-1900s once more, unfortunately, history had its way of repeating itself. Although Morgan's product executed its promised duties of straightening hair, because of it consisting of alkaline-based chemicals and soap containing lye, it resulted in the breakdown of protein structure in the hair, which not only caused hair to thin but also resulted in several women developing early signs of alopecia. It wasn't until the early 1980s that no-lye relaxers were introduced, making many believe that relaxers were now considered to be good for hair. This was not true. In the mid-1990s, a class action lawsuit against a major hair care corporation made its way to the media. More than 50,000 cases were filed from people who used the product and subsequently began to suffer from scalp burns and hair loss. Although the lawsuits caused the relaxer industry to take a big hit, sadly, it didn't stop a lot of women from continuing to use. When we take a look into today's hair trends, we have to continue to consider the influences that society and pop culture have on women. Whether you're watching television, skimming through a magazine, or simply venturing out into your local social scenes, observing the popularity of hair weaves and extensions among black women has become unassailable. Nearly 6 out of 10 black consumers wear a wig, weave, or extensions. Other than being able to obtain versatility and low maintenance, there is a deeper significance to the trend that originates from the discrimination and judgment casted upon black women by people who value Eurocentric culture. For example, analyzing slave owners and how they showed favoritism and special treatment towards those with good hair, a term that describes black hair that embodies similar characteristics to those of European hair textures. In an online study done to identify bias towards black women and their natural hair, there were several key findings, one of which concluded that white women demonstrated the strongest bias against textured hair. They rated it as less beautiful, less sexy, attractive, and less professional than smoother hair. This notion has not only plagued our past, but our present too. It wasn't until July 2018 that the United States Navy made an amendment to their grooming code, allowing women to be able to wear their hair in dreadlocks, braids, buns, and ponytails. The ban on these prominent hairstyles amongst black women was criticized and said to be an attempt to whitewash the military. Taking another look into the history of the shaming of black women for their natural hair during the 18th century, after a period of manumission, women of African descent had begun wearing their hair in extravagant styles that featured feathers and jewels. Because of the women receiving an excessive amount of attention from white men, a prohibition was enticed, forcing women of color to wear tignon scarves over their hair. The tendency for African American women to hide their natural hair still impacts black women till this day. On one account in 2010, a black woman by the name of Chastity Jones was offered a position at a processing company. Stating that they tend to get messy, the company's human resources manager informed Chastity of her dreadlocks being a violation to their grooming code. Chastity Jones's decision to not cut her dreads resulted in the job offer being rescinded. Because of this stigma that so many corporations abide by, several women are choosing to hide their natural hair under weaves and wigs in order to make good impressions on employers. In a journal titled, "At 27, I Still Hide My Natural Hair, Here's Why," Carolyn Copeland shares her personal experience of being a black woman in America and having to constantly face issues regarding her natural hair. "I would never consider going into a job interview with my natural hair. If I did, I'm certain it would drastically decrease my chances of being hired," she writes. As she continues on in the journal, she then begins to explain herself furthermore. "I straighten my hair and wear a weave because I genuinely like the way I look and it makes my hair easier to manage. However, even if it weren't my preferred hairstyle choice, I would still feel obligated to straighten it or style my hair in a way that is more socially accepted." Although many black women continue to conform to society's standards, the fight to diminish the negative reproach regarding natural hair has been very much effective. Studies have shown that while sales for hair care products used to style natural hair have inclined, relaxer sales have declined, dropping 26% since 2008. More black women are choosing to embrace their natural hair, and they are starting to be respected again in their decision to represent themselves as they choose. Studies have also shown that within the past year, nearly 70% are currently wearing their hair or have worn their hair naturally, 53% have worn braids, and 41% wear dreadlocks. Kelly, another relative of mine who I had the pleasure of interviewing, spoke briefly about her decision to go natural and grow dreadlocks. "I wanted long locks. My husband didn't approve, so it wasn't until after we divorced I attempted to get them." In an ABC article, 4 different women shared their brief thoughts on their personal hair choice. Lou, who is 22 years old, said that her decision to start wearing her natural hair was rooted by her desire to be liked just who as I am. "Why can't I be good just as myself?" she added. As many women like Lou are deciding to leave behind the harsh chemicals, heat, and costly hair extensions, some are referring to the sudden shift as a movement. "The foundation of the natural hair movement is that the hair curling from my head is innately beautiful and should be free to exist that way," says Emma Kasperzak at BBC News. Even social media has been a testament to the acclivity of more women embracing their natural hair. In 2017, 554,048 Instagram posts were shared using the hashtag natural hair, receiving nearly 1.7 million comments and over 81 million likes. Overall, through the many decades of trendy hairstyling, it has become evident that wearing natural hair is evolving into a progression that is ultimately worth being proud of.